began on Tinder. I swiped more out of boredom than expectation, just killing time between work emails and errands. Her profile came up almost accidentally. One picture of her smiling at a cafe, hair loose, a book in her hands, and another where she laughed at something just out of frame. There was something slightly off about it, or maybe too perfect, but I swiped right without much thought. Almost immediately, it matched. I stared at the screen for a moment, half expecting the notification to disappear, like it wasn't real. Then she messaged first. Simple, "Hey, how's your week going?" The conversation started light, casual. A joke about how bad Mondays always were, a comment on the coffee shop she liked, the way she hated mornings. I replied. She responded immediately. Every answer was fast, seemingly effortless. I felt comfortable, almost too comfortable. After a few days of chatting, she suggested coffee. I hesitated. First dates always made me nervous, but I felt a pull I couldn't explain. I agreed. She gave a time and place. A small cafe I'd never been to but had always wanted to try. I arrived 15 minutes early, a mix of nerves and anticipation twisting in my stomach. The cafe was warm and quiet, sunlight streaming through tall windows, dust motes floating lazily in the air. Wooden tables and chairs gave the space a rustic charm. The faint aroma of espresso mixed with cinnamon and chocolate, and the low hum of the grinder and steam wand filled the background. I chose a table by the window, a corner seat where I could see the entrance clearly. I sipped my coffee, trying to calm my nerves, scanning the street outside through the glass. My foot tapped lightly against the leg of the chair. I told myself I was overthinking it. I looked at my phone. She had messaged again. "Can't wait to see you." Smiley face. I smiled nervously. Almost immediately, I noticed movement at the door. She stepped in, smiling politely, scanning the room, then stopping as her eyes met mine. That smile, warm, natural, but something else lingered underneath. Too sharp, too focused. I felt a strange tightening in my chest as she walked over and sat down. The first minutes were light conversation. Movies, work, hobbies. I laughed at her jokes. She laughed at mine. But I began noticing small things. The way her eyes lingered just a little too long on my hands as I stirred my coffee. How she noticed every subtle movement I made. She wasn't just listening. She was observing, recording, analyzing. 20 minutes in, she asked where I lived. I gave a vague answer. She pressed gently, not aggressively, but enough that I felt my chest tighten. I tried to deflect, changing the subject. She smiled, calm, patient, as if she knew exactly what she was doing. I began noticing other details. The way she glanced at the door when someone entered. How she mirrored my movements subtly, tilting her head when I did, adjusting her coffee cup in sync with mine. The quiet intensity of her presence made me hyper-aware of every gesture I made, every word I spoke. Halfway through, I noticed the barista calling out a name. I glanced toward the counter. She followed my gaze, immediately shifting focus and scanning the room. Every subtle movement seemed to matter. Every pause, every laugh, every breath felt loaded. After nearly an hour, I decided I had to leave. I said I had an early morning, that I needed to get going. She nodded, smiling, and said casually, "Want me to walk you out?" Something in the tone made my stomach twist. Casual, friendly, patient, but deliberate. I hesitated, weighing the unease, but didn't want to be rude. I nodded. Outside, the air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of wet pavement. The streets were nearly empty. She walked a few steps behind me, a shadow of presence I couldn't ignore. Every instinct screamed to put distance between us. But I walked on, hoping my unease was just nerves. Halfway down the block, I realized she was pausing deliberately at times, letting me move ahead, then catching up, studying my gait. I glimpsed her reflection in a shop window. She stood still, her head tilted slightly, observing. Every step I took felt calculated under her scrutiny. When I reached my building, my hands shook slightly as I fumbled with my keys. She lingered near the door, talking casually, commenting on the architecture, on the lampposts, even on how the door handle felt. complimenting the way I unlocked it. It unnerved me. I wanted her to leave. I pressed the elevator button. She stepped back, smiling, watching, patient. I felt her gaze until the doors closed. That night, I replayed the date over and over. Her eyes, her subtle observations, the way she had watched every movement, every small gesture. It wasn't curiosity. It was analysis. Deliberate, patient, persistent. The next morning, my phone buzzed. A message I really enjoyed yesterday. Innocuous, polite, but my stomach twisted. Later, another message came, this time with a photo attached. It was me, sitting in the coffee shop, from across the room. I hadn't seen her take the photo, hadn't noticed any phone. She had been observing longer than I realized. I blocked her number, deleted the messages, tried to convince myself it was over. But later, walking to work, I saw someone across the street, standing near another cafe, motionless, watching, pretending to check her phone. Over the next few days, my paranoia grew. Every reflection in a shop window, every stationary figure, every passerby became a potential observation point. Every coffee shop I passed tightened my chest. I avoided streets she might appear on. I avoided cafes entirely. Even at work, I was hyper-aware. Any shadow outside my window, every pedestrian on the sidewalk, made my pulse jump. My friends noticed my unease. I made excuses. I lied, tried to feel normal. But it wasn't just nerves anymore. It was awareness, observation, suspicion. One evening, I went out with friends to dinner, trying to relax. But even in the crowded restaurant, I felt it, a lingering presence in my peripheral vision. A figure standing near the street through the window, tilting its head in a familiar way. I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe it wasn't her. Then another message, another photo, closer this time, taken outside my building, showing me walking up the steps, door in view. I hadn't heard anything. No footsteps, no rustle of clothing, nothing. Panicked, checked every lock, window, door, everything secure. And yet I knew she had been watching, observing, patient, calculating. Now, every time I pass a coffee shop, I glance at every reflection, scanning for movement. Every time someone stands quietly, motionless, my stomach twists. Every slight tilt of a head, every casual pause in a crowd, my mind fills in the gaps. And I know deep down she is still out there, waiting, patient, observing. And I am left wondering what her next move will be. I tell myself I am safe, but I don't believe it. And I know that's exactly what she wants me to think.